Well, hello. I had a lot of fun doing that stream yesterday, and I thought I would do it again today. I mean, yesterday. Who would have guessed that my co-host Carrie O'Shea Gorgon would sneak in and say hi as well? I'm just journaling, and so I thought I'd set up a stream like this, invite you to come and take a peek, and I'm just gonna get some journaling done while we're both hanging out. If and when music comes on, it will be stuff I have through Epidemic Sound. You can go to epidemicsound.com. That's not a sponsor, just somebody I like. So I think I'll get this song going. Turn it down. That should be it. Rainy day here. It's was raining like crazy. It's still kind of stormy looking skies. I'm told by my friend Leslie up north that it is quite a weather up there. Hey, Carol. Leslie's making the best of it though, because this is maple syrup season. So she's up there doing maple sugaring. I had this idea. You ever get interested in something and you just kind of want to keep poking at it and looking and seeing who else is doing it a different way or what else is going on and all that sort of thing? I was looking at other people talking about journaling, and this one guy, he's nice, but what was kind of interesting, he was talking about how to journal like a philosopher, and I was like, I don't want to journal like a philosopher. I mean, I guess some people do. I mean, a lot of people really love Ryan Holiday and what he's been doing with Stoic stuff, and there's of course a lot of also follow-on kinds of people who are also into that, and I think that that's one way to journal like a philosopher, but I was thinking, I wonder if I could show you some other ways to journal that are a little more action, a little more driven by how people can journal for different lives, different businesses, different styles. I was thinking about some of the notes I think about when I coach people for executive coaching. And one of those notes that comes right to mind is that I'm always asking people who are in an executive role or a leadership role, what are some of the decision areas that you're working on? So one kind of neat thing you can use as a journaling prompt. So, I mean, when you talk about how to journal, one of the things you're talking about a lot is just kind of how to journal, right? I mean, or what should you journal about? It's not even how. I mean, how is you write on the page. There are all kinds of ways. And a lot of people like to use theirs, for instance, in like the bullet journal way, which is like, how do you basically turn your journal into a planner? Cool. Ryder Carroll's interesting. That's the guy who started the bullet journal. It's one way to do it. It's not useful to me. I don't need my journal to be a planner. I do like to use it as a way to kind of capture streams of information, like stuff that's gone on over time. And I talked about that yesterday in the stream. Today, I want to talk about how to use it as a deciding tool, as a cognitive partner, sort of like the way I use AI sometimes. One of the things I do with my journal is I write down things that I think, I might need to work on in the next little while. So I'll give you some examples of that. But first, allow me to welcome in and introduce my co-host, Carrie O'Shea Gorgon. You're just coming in because it's journaling time.
This is the only way I'm going to journal today. So
I thought you were really busy, so I didn't even want to introduce you to it. But I thought,
busy.
You got all kinds of stuff on the go today.
I have full house, sure. But you can always take a few minutes to journal.
That's what the cool kids say.
I don't know how you journal while you're talking.
It's tricky. I mean, I haven't really, I don't think I've mastered it just yet. So I'll give you, what I was just about to say though, one thing I do is it's sort of like, I use it to figure out things that I need to figure out a little bit more. And I'll get right to that. I'll answer this comment from Carol. For me, it depends on the day. Sometimes I like prompts. Sometimes I throw away the prompts and do stream of consciousness. That's the thing. I think journals have to be that way, don't you? I think they have to be holistic. They have to be like what you need them for in the moment.
I have an interesting one that's like it has prompts for telling your story to your kids. I forget where I put it. But so it'll ask you like, hey, when you were a kid and you would run off to, secret yourself in a little fort or something, what was your favorite spot? That kind of stuff. And it's got one a day. I have nowhere near finished it because I bought it like a million years ago. But it's a journal of sorts with prompts, but for a specific purpose. I like those.
Those one prompt a day journals are kind of interesting. I've tried a few times. I finally just threw mine away because I was like, I'm not going to fill this up in my lifetime unless I just keep coming back around to those years over the lifetime. I would have liked the idea, a 5-year journal to have like one sentence a day in, but I figured if I do it right, then my real journal will be my 5 years if I do it right.
I don't like the pressure.
Whatever you need them for in every given day. Sorry,
I don't like pressure of having to fill something in like on a particular schedule. It's like I would rebel against it.
Yeah. Man, I'm trying to figure out my own lighting. I think I feel like I'm in the dark, but I think it's just that there's so much light coming in that the camera's going.
Oh.
I don't know, bro.
No, it's just it's getting a little brighter outside, but it's kind of a dreary day.
Gray day. There, guess I'm a little more brighter.
I've realized that I need a lot more space for books than I have currently. I have this like macrame Etsy solution, but it holds 5 books or 6 maximum. And I have 3 times that many books now stacked in like unlikely places.
I was going to say, you're not a 5-book kind of person.
I'm not. It was short-sighted of me. I'm going to need shelves.
Do you find that you ever want to journal about your books? Because I do. I mean, like, for instance, when I was reading that book by Pessoa that I suddenly can't remember the name of, I was journaling the crap out of that book. I was cutting parts of pages out and putting them in my journal. Do you ever get that kind of energy about a book, or not really?
So, not. I mean, I do, but I talk about it more than I write about it. I benefit from having somebody else to bounce those ideas off of. So I like to read biographies, and I get a lot out of those. And then one step away from that are kind of like fictionalized versions of, like, they'll take what is known about a person and kind of write a novel like based on it. And so a couple of those have been interesting. There's a great one called The Personal Librarian about J.P. Morgan's personal librarian, Belle DaCosta Green, who was in fact Belle Marion Greener, a Black woman who was passing for white at a time that was a very dangerous thing to do, but for some people necessary for better opportunities. So anyway, when I was reading that, I talked a lot about it with you, with other people, just about the necessity of that for her at the time, so she could be a professional librarian. Like, despite her education and her accomplishments, wholly apart from that, they would have just taken her out of the role if they had known she was Black, and how messed up that was. So I don't tend to write about it. I tend to talk it through. It's a very long answer to a very short question.
That never happens. The Book of Disquiet was the book I was talking about by Pessoa. That's the book that I was chopping up bits of it all the time because I just loved some of the things that come in it.
I thought you were just cutting it up to like hide your weed in there, leave a bunch of like little spaces in it.
Oh, you know me, all the weeds.
So this tea is amazing. Chloe from Scotland sent me some stuff, including these Yorkshire tea and biscuits tea packets, and holy mackerel, they taste like biscuits. So good.
That sounds interesting.
If you're gonna journal, you gotta have a cup of tea. Carol says I bring book highlights into Notion automatically and add my own notes and action items around the highlights. Feels like building out an asset of knowledge turns my books into mini courses. I almost feel like that like makes it, I don't know. It's like, for me, that's like work about work. I have asked ChatGPT to take a book and spit out its key concepts. Like 1 Minute Manager, for example, I was like, spit out the key concepts from 1 Minute Manager. And then I asked it to go a step further and make me an agenda for a one-on-one meeting with a direct report based on those principles. So like, I've used technology to do those things for me. I don't tend to. I mean, I like to mark up books. I don't like to suck it into like a piece of technology or whatever.
Well, right. But what this is saying is that, so not only are you taking that quote, but you're you're adding your own thoughts around it and stuff. Like there's one thing to have something summarized. It's interesting to kind of see it go further like that. I do like that. That's what I've been doing with my paper journal with things like that. Pessoa, he's the Portuguese writer. He's the one that like he wrote with what were they called? It wasn't homonyms. It was called. He basically had like multiple personalities for his writing on purpose, multitudes of different personalities for his writing, and so he's like supremely quotable.
Do you think like everybody kind of does?
One more time? Well, no, but like every, you know how like Stephen King writes as Richard Bachman? Pessoa wrote as like 33 different names or whatever. So that's pretty wow. One of his quotes, literature is the most agreeable way of ignoring life.
I can't disagree.
There are ships sailing to many ports, but not a single one goes where life is not painful. Sort of like everyone's got it as bad as you think you've got it or whatever.
I've heard it said similarly where it's like if everybody could throw their problems on a table so that you could all exchange, you would just pick yours back up again because other people's problems are more than you realize, I guess, is the point.
He's got another line, especially interesting being a Portuguese writer because they have that phrase saudade, which is sort of like a deep longing. And he says, it's my longing for whom I might have been that distracts and torments me.
Oh, that's deep.
Yeah, he's got a lot of quotes. I'm scrolling down, and there's 48 pages of quotes from the book of Disquiet.
That's interesting, though. Do you think so that at that point you're regretting kind of your lost promise or potential?
Sure.
But I think then you're kind of cherry picking because to do those things you feel like you were capable of doing but didn't, you would have had to give up the things that you have now, some of which you obviously like and want, or you wouldn't have made the choices that led you to those. Very
true. Very true. I think that there's a lot of, I don't know. I've never found great value in looking back so much, which is funny because we're talking about journaling, but I've never I never spend a real great deal of my time using my journal for reflection, except for my Friday reflections. I use most of it for, like I started this before you dropped in. I was saying I use it for things like how do you make decisions? So for instance, Anne Frank said that paper is patient. And what she meant was that, you can write stuff into a journal or diary that doesn't have to be kind and doesn't have to be correct or whatever. And you can really throw your rocks at it. So I think there's value in that. I think there's value in having a place where you can do that.
To write without judgment. You do see people a lot in conversations trying to suss out what they think you would like to hear sometimes. Yeah. Trying to, choose the right thing to say or parse their words. And I think it's nice to get to the point, yes, journaling, but with a person where you feel like you don't have to dress up what you want to say. And if you say it inartfully, they'll understand anyway.
Yes. One of the things I was thinking about when I started this particular stream was I was going to show some different ways to journal. I'd started this whole stream right before you showed up by saying that there was this fellow who was going to show me how to journal like a philosopher. And I think that I was like, what? I don't care. I don't want to journal like a philosopher. So I thought, how do I, what are some of the things I do to coach leaders and executives? And one of the things I started with was journaling about decisions. I think there's a scenario. Did I do that?
Yes.
Sorry. My hands were not that close to the keys. Sorry. I think that there's a lot of scenarios where we don't go through the decision-making tree because we just sort of leave it in our head. We'll figure that out later. But if you journal decisions that have to be made, I think it goes a lot faster and better. I think there's a better chance. So you get a real chance to look at it on paper. You could do that so many ways. You could do that sort of T-bar thing where you sort of cons and pros it a little bit. You could just write out the statement. You could write, what's the worst that's going to happen, because that way you can think it through. So when I was sitting here getting ready to do this, I thought about a question that I needed to sort of bring up, or a problem or decision I had to bring up. And so I was like, all right, well, what's going to happen? And so I sort of role played on my page a little bit, and that way I can think through what I'm going to cover, anything I might have not thought about if I hadn't journaled it. And I can sort of also try to pre-guess, they will possibly say this, or they will possibly say that. And with strategy, for instance, I find that I get better at strategy the more I try to anticipate and empathize with the other person's point of view. And so I start from there a lot of times. So that's what I like to do.
I was thinking it would be a good chance for me to do something with the information I got from reading the book Thinking in Bets. And is it Annie Duke? Because one of the concepts I loved was a pre-mortem. Like after projects, you'll do a post-mortem and look at all the things that went well and all the things that went wrong. Well, if you try to do that before you begin the project, like think, what's success going to look like? What things do we have to do for that to happen? And what things have to break our way? Like what pieces of luck, what things have to work out for us for that to happen? And then you go the other way and say, okay, what if this is a big, steaming crater when we're all finished and everything's gone wrong? What things have to break against us for that to happen? Like what pieces of bad luck, what choices would we have to make for that to occur? And then you plan against those contingencies. So that would be interesting. I can't, like, other people say they're interested in that, but they don't actually do it. So I think a journal is a great place to maybe do some of that pre-thinking.
So I just talked about the fact that I had that book that wanted me to write for 5 whole years, and I chucked it because I was just like, I don't think so. I did do another idea. I did try another journal. By the way, this was just an excuse to try out buying a $7.99 Amazon Basics journal and see if I was going to like it. And the answer was no. It's not bad. Well, I mean, it is quite literally what it says it is. It's the basics. And it's similar size to my lip term journal. It's grids instead of dots. So I would have liked dots if they had it, but they didn't. It's got only one little string. And yesterday's stream, I talked about why I wanted 2 strings. But I think that, it's technically good. So a commonplace book, if you Google commonplace book, you'll find lots of people showing ways to do it. A lot of times it's just a quote book. It's basically things that you read in other books or quotes you've heard from other people that you wanted to remember. And I'm going very slow in filling it out, but I'm loving the process of it, because I'm finding when I go back and look through the quotes, I'm always excited with where the things that I've written down take me. Do you know what I mean? Like, so the quotes have lives of their own in some ways. Like this one's just an Oscar Wilde. This is done on like T-shirts and stuff like that. This is like a live, laugh, love for Oscar Wilde. Remind me something about that, by the way. Life is far too important to be taken seriously. I love that quote. Because when I get really wound about something, that's a good one to kind of get me back out of the game.
I come back to the Hunter S. Thompson one about how you're not supposed to. I'm just gonna look it up, but basically how you're not supposed to try to be a good-looking corpse. You should like live life to the fullest and really thrash yourself around.
Go into the grave used and beat up.
Oh, here we go. Life should not be a journey to the grave with the intention of arriving safely in a pretty and well-preserved body, but rather to skid in broadside in a cloud of smoke, thoroughly used up, totally worn out, and loudly proclaiming, "Wow, what a ride!"
That's a super, super good one. I like that. A lot. I do like quotes sometimes, although, when people Ask me for my favorite quotes. I always lock up. I always freeze. I never have the great answer. I just use Ralph Waldo Emerson. Do not go wherever the road may lead. Go where there is no road and leave a trail.
That's also a good one.
Because, I just never have a great one ready to go. And by the way, I stole that one because that was Les Brown, Live Your Dreams. That was his favorite quote that he stated in that. And I was like, that's good enough. I just took his.
It works. If my all-time favorite, and I've had this forever, but it's Edith Wharton. There are two ways of spreading light: to be the candle or the mirror that reflects it.
Oh, I like that.
Think about that a lot. Well, you don't have to be the center of attention. You don't have to seek glory. You don't have to be the candle. You can be the mirror that reflects it. You can contribute. You can support and facilitate.
Nice. Well, over 70 live viewers right now, and we've had all of one person commenting and being part of the stream, and that's because we've had years of interaction. So anyone wants to drop a comment, feel free. Favorite quote, things like
Chloe's cleaning.
Chloe's cleaning. Oh, I didn't see that. Was she?
She messaged me. She's cleaning.
Oh, gotcha. Cleaning Chloe. Chloe cleaning. It feels like some really terrible thing to give a stutterer.
But yeah, favorite quotes. That's probably a really good one. Some journals come pre-printed with quotes in them.
They do.
For whatever, for prompts or inspiration. But you could just start each day with one of your own favorites.
Yeah.
It'd be more meaningful
to you. Another one out of my little commonplace book that I've been slowly writing. Well, this one I stole from Babel, R.F. Kuang. It's not actually the author's quote. It's this other guy named Nebriha, which I had to go find this quote. It was like hundreds and hundreds of years of other people quoting it. So, I mean, obviously, as we all know, Abraham Lincoln and Ben Franklin said everything. Basically, the baseline of the quote, language was always the companion of empire. They grow, flourish, and later fall together. And I was like, I love that.
I just heard that.
You and I both love archaic phrasing. We love things that were like, all 6s and 7s or something like that. You have like all these cool things that, people don't know what they mean.
Hitting on all 6s.
That one. Hitting on all 6s. So like there's so many quotes like that though that are just lost in the bushes from hundreds and hundreds of years. Not to mention so many quotes that mean so much more in another language, and then we come and like crush it over with our English language, and it's not as fun.
I never thought about that really until I read the books by Milan Kundera, a Czech author, and I came across a couple different translations of the same book over the course of years, because I like to reread books that are interesting and thought-provoking, and I was like, this is kind of hitting different. It was the translation. There are some things that people either they try to change the meaning of because they find it offensive in some way, or they want to make the book more palatable to a certain audience, and they actually will change intentionally the original author's words.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Let me see. These are all reviews. How do I find quotes on this thing?
In your paper journal, you just gotta flip.
Oh, is that how that works?
Look for all the bits that you stuck in there with glue. Do you have glue? You must have. Do you?
I have glue. I have glue. I have Elmer's Extra Strength Glue Stick. Dude.
Is it the kind that's blue and then dries clear, like kids have for school? Oh.
It's I don't know. It's a bluish. I don't know. Does that look blue? It's bluish.
No.
So
it's just dirty.
It is dirty. I don't know. Sand or something. Here's a quote, for instance, in Babel, again, talking about words and language. It's kind of funny. English did not just borrow words from other languages. It was stuffed to the brim with foreign influences, a Frankenstein vernacular. And Robin found it incredible how this country, whose citizens prided themselves so much on being better than the rest of the world, could not make it through an afternoon tea without borrowed goods.
I'm reading that book right now, but I'm listening to it.
That's a swell book. Oh, do you read at a really fast speed? I read it like 1.65, which makes me feel small and pedantic.
I don't. I'm a really slow reader, which is why I gave up paper books in favor of audiobooks pretty early on. But I kind of like to listen to it at regular speed and take it all in.
Mm-hmm.
Not if it's like a work thing or a business thing, I'll put it on 1.5 speed. But for fiction and things I'm reading for pleasure, I like to take it in.
I understand the difference. I am reading How to Invest by David Rubenstein, and that could sound like bees in my head for all I care. There are certain writers, though, when you read their stuff, you just want to like chew on the words. You really want to hear them and absorb the wordplay and all that sort of thing. William Gibson's like that for me. I like William Gibson a lot, and he just says things that are, he'll say things that are like, there's this line at the very beginning of Pattern Recognition, which is my go to sleep audiobook, where he says, for instance, Hubertus Big End, a nominal Belgian, and the word nominal, I'm like, what a random ass word to throw in there, but it's perfect because it really sets a sort of characterization in one word.
I just read, is it Idaru? And the follow-up book to that. I've read Pattern Recognition in the last few years. His stuff is so interesting to me because of how his imagination works and how he paints this vivid picture of the future, which for him was like a distant future. But for us, so much of it feels like it's already happened.
Yeah.
Or his old hat kind of. So but when you realize he wrote that a long time ago, it's amazing to think about it.
The book Neuromancer, which is the first big William Gibson book, he banged that on a manual typewriter, and in it are phrases like cyberspace and cyberpunk and all these things, because he was one of the early cyberpunk creators alongside Bruce Sterling and several others. But again, he wrote that on a manual typewriter. And someone binged him on this at some point and said, hey, what's something you regret from Neuromancer? Like, what's something that is like stands out trapped in amber as, something that you didn't know anything about at the time? And he said, cell phones. He says there's hardly any mobile device use in that besides the cyber decks, which are equivalent to like a laptop about the shape of a Nintendo Switch. And so he was like, yeah, I just, no one could have predicted. I mean, phones back then in the early 80s were those big bag phones that had those massive battery packs with them. And no one would have thought we'd have these things glued to our heads. So by the time Agency comes out, he's fixed this problem, but it's fascinating to look at Neuromancer and realize that typewriter wrote it.
That's funny. So there's a there's a chapter thing in Neuromancer where the character is walking by a bank of payphones and they ring one at a time as he goes by them. And it's both anachronistic and, in context scary because something's chasing him around. But yeah. So that's one instance where mobile phones would have changed the whole game.
Totally true. It's so fascinating. So I went on Amazon just now and I said, are there, can you even get a typewriter? Like, is that a thing? Because I was like, well, someone out there. I have an Underwood in my house, or had. I don't remember if I got rid of it or not. I had an Underwood in my house. So I just looked, and you could buy a Royal exclusive classic manual typewriter, $235, by the way, or a Maplewood manual typewriter, $199.
Nice.
Or We Are Memory retro typewriter. It sounds like really sketch. $219. Old-fashioned vintage font for a crafting room or decorating gifts and typing letters. And
but you can collect like actual vintage typewriters. Anne Hanley does. Yeah. She likes them. I mean, there's a satisfying, really heavy feeling to the keys on those. It's difficult to get a thing out. You're not going to get anything done in a hurry, but it is very satisfying in a way that clicking away on a tablet keyboard is not.
Right.
If you like that sort of thing. That's why gamers have loud keyboards.
So that is, there's a whole thing. I don't know if you've seen these videos. Like that is a whole genre of video, by the way. I don't know if you've seen that, the keyboard type stuff.
Oh, keyboard types.
Let's take a look-see. Well, here, I'm gonna close the sound for a second. I'm gonna go bring up one of these dudes. This guy did 40 keyboards. He tried over 40 different keyboards.
That's interesting in and of itself.
Yep.
Okay.
Let's get the volume.
Why, so you don't have to? Well, do you really want to be the guy that tried over 40 keyboards? Subscribe later. If you're an avid viewer of the Hippio Tech channel, you might see Keychron on the screen and go, Hippio? Really? Again? Well, I started off 2022 by checking out the Keychron Q2, and almost a year later, you thght I was offer with your first keyboard off. Keychron probably has a keyboard that
keyboards.
What do you think about the ones that are ergonomic, like bend?
Now, speaking of things that are worth your time, these are my honorable mentions. Like a dad going out for milk, these may or may not be.
Now listen to this. This is
going out for milk. That's mean.
That just makes me want to pop popcorn.
So I did the opposite. I bought a quiet mouse so that people on the Backpack Show would not hear the clicking.
Right. Rob Hatch used to make fun of me for that stuff. Rob Hatch would be like, I cannot get over how any keyboard underneath your hand sounds like when you're typing.
You do. You like angry type or something.
I type very fast. I don't know.
You're like that Kermit the Frog gif. It's like, yeah. Oh, there he is. Oh. Where did you get that? I feel like we've never had the story of Kermit.
I know it was a gift, so now I feel embarrassed because like probably somebody I love gave it to me. I don't know.
You don't remember?
Like if I had to guess, like I have so many like very caring and loving people who like give me things. It could be you, could be Chloe, could be like, I mean, there's just so many nice people in my life who give me things, and I can't tell you. I'm sure. Maybe it was my dad.
But you don't keep that many things, so it means something that it's still there.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's funny. Someone asked me that question last week, and I said, well, one reason I have the Kermit the Frog in my house, though, is because it's a, oh my gosh, I just got, I said because it's like one of the only bad impressions I can do. Not very good at impressions, but I could do a little Kermit the Frog.
Is it an impression, or do you just sound like that?
I don't want to talk to you right now.
I feel attacked. Hey, take it easy. I guess we're just gonna journal, everybody.
You boob. So I don't know. I don't know where we were going with it before Kermit. I type really fast. 8th grade, my parents said to me, if you want to get a computer as a high school graduation present, you have to learn typing. And so my little brother and I went to summer school typing. And that seems cruel and unusual, I gotta admit.
Well, you did it.
I tried, and I learned, and I picked it up, and I got as fast as 104 words per minute. Corrected down to about 75, like, because that wasn't so great. My little brother completely eschewed the whole training and sat in the back doing one finger and wrote the funniest sentences in our life and would make me laugh until I cried every single time we went to typing.
I had a typing teacher in high school. I had done typing before that, like, you know, you just sort of hunt and peck, and I got pretty fast at it, but I was learning the proper like ASDF space, blah blah, all the drills. Mm-hmm. And so I took it into my head when I was about 16 that I wanted to graduate a year early because I'd heard about someone who'd done it and was like, hell yes, I would like to do that. And so for some reason, the principal convened all my teachers and my dad and the principal and vice principal to vote on whether they thought it was a good idea that I graduate high school a year early, like skip a year. And the only one who voted against it was my typing teacher. And I was like, excuse me, how much more typing do you think I need to absorb before I'm ready for college, ma'am? It was really funny. Luckily, it was like a majority rules and not like didn't have to be unanimous or whatever, but I thought that was pretty funny. So I graduated a year early, and I'm also a really good typist.
And you're also a really good typist.
Mm-hmm. So she can suck one. How about that?
Eat it, teacher.
Thanks for nothing. Thanks for teaching me how to type and then trying to keep me in high school a year longer.
Wow. I can't even imagine doing it a year sooner. I was so bad. I can't believe I got it in the only 4 years. So
I don't know. I was so happy. I guess and then I'll shut up about it, but I went to a small high school and I saw there were 35 kids in the graduating class. All right. And they tracked you. So it was like college track, honors track, whatever the difference is, I don't know. And then whatever the other ones. So you're seeing the same like 15 people, 10, 15 people day in and day out since like kindergarten on. I was so ready to be somewhere else. Let's say that. Anyway, thanks for giving me a chance to journal again. I didn't mean to hijack your stream a second time, but I did think
journal hijacking stream something.
I thought it'd be funny. I did. I'm a troll at heart. My kids have inherited it from me.
You have the king of the trolls visiting right now, so that's
my baby. So my baby will spend, baby is like 16, will spend hours trolling someone who's been a jerk. So kind of like trolling the bullies, and it's worthwhile investment in his view because he's got this dedication to justice and fairness. And I was like, dude, why are you putting your energy there? It makes him happy. It brings him joy. So I guess it brings me joy to crash your stream.
That's a very interesting point of view. That is a very interesting way to say it.
Well, you gave me a chance to do my journaling.
Well,
because as much as I want to, I don't always get to it. Right. I will look at the journal on my desk and keep working instead.
Well, I'm happy if people are coming by the stream to write with us and stuff. What kind of tea did you have?
Oh, it was that Chloe sent me. I should grab the box next time. But it's called Yorkshire Tea and Biscuits tea. And it's so good. It's supposed to taste like tea and biscuits, and somehow it actually does.
Oh, so that was the name. As you were saying that, I thought it was like the kind of tea one might have if they were having Yorkshire tea and biscuit.
No, it's stupid good. Hold on, I'll show you it. Let me just... Whoops. It wants me to sign in. I don't need to sign in, thanks. Honestly. Like, do you want to sign in and buy it? I'm like, no, thank you. I have it already.
I just made a big rant about retargeting the other day. How like you go to a website, you buy a thing, and then for like 3 weeks afterwards, you're getting links on every single site. Come get some.
CC.
Oh.
It's this. And so it's supposed to taste like tea and biscuits, and honestly, it does. It's so good.
Wow.
Yeah. At first, I didn't touch it. I actually thought it was biscuits, and so I was like leaving it for special treat time. It's tea, and it's so good.
That's pretty nuts. I had no idea.
I did not either. Look at what we're missing out on being in America.
I guess so. I mean, all our European friends have probably had this many times and love it.
I know.
I have a little quote that I saw that I thought was hilarious. Nice comes from the Latin word for stupid, said Griffin. We don't want to be nice. I love that. I don't know if that's true or not, but I love the sentiment. You know?
I think there are more important things, but like I think kindness is important, and I view that as different from nice. Somehow.
Kindness. I feel like that's thinking you could add to a backpack.
If one were a burlesque performer, you could add kindness to the backpack. No, I think nice sort of, to me in my head, goes into like the polite bucket. And I don't value politeness as much as I value kindness, genuine kindness. And sometimes telling someone the truth about a thing, for example, might not be polite, but it is kind, in my opinion.
Truth is tricky. I would say perspective. I don't know if it's always truth, because sometimes people will tell me my truth and I'll be like, oh, well, that sounded like your truth. It just sounded like it came out of your mouth right then. But
well, how you feel about something is your truth. So if they're like, would you like to, for example, if a guy's like, would you like to go out on a date with me? Some people would say, to be polite, you should say, oh, I would, but I'm busy Tuesday. That's not kind, because now you're thinking, he's going to think he has a chance. Whereas if you instead say, oh, that's really flattering, but I'm not interested, that's kind.
Right.
Might not feel like it at the time. So I'm not suggesting that truth is like, I don't know, objective truth about what someone else should or shouldn't do. I mean more like the truth about your feelings on the subject.
Gotcha. I latched and locked onto the truth, and that's where I got a little stuck there.
Yeah, that's always an interesting topic. Now we could get into like moral relativism and stuff.
Right.
Woo, right down that rabbit hole.
People came here just to chill and journal. I don't think they came
chill and journal.
Or work, or I guess clean. Chloe says something about cleaning. I've heard of this thing that people sometimes do.
How often do you do it? Do you clean?
What month is this one?
I try for once a week. I don't clean every single thing once a week. I dust like when I see it, and I might not notice it for a while. But I try to clean high traffic areas once a week. So I'm like, not that far in my journal. I'm looking at how much space.
Oh yeah, that's a good. What page is it on yours?
I don't know. Oh, 59.
Oh, okay. I'm on 145.
Well, excuse me.
Yeah, catch up.
See, that's why I have to crash your journaling thing, or else I won't ever journal as regularly.
Right. Well, that's it. Maybe this is a good reason for people to sit still for a minute and journal. They can,
You're a good influence.
Have a snack, make a breakfast, lunch, or dinner, and sit with us and make some thoughts.
Well, I started with my 3 words and wrote down how excited I am for the week. And wrote down some things I'm grateful for, which include Chloe sending me that tea.
Nice.
Because it's really good. Like surprisingly good. Oh, and I love, incidentally, the Pixlr AI art generator made all these for me. So I would tell it, hey, Van Gogh style me, a woman with red hair with some tea, or a barn, with tea on the table. Or a door that looks scary. And it made them for me. Yeah, and I printed them.
I think mine came out of, Stable Diffusion right before it broke.
Oh, it's broken.
Well, Stable Diffusion itself works, but the little Discord server where they were letting people come and play for free is offline. I don't even know if they did that because maybe they were paying too much money for it or something.
They want you to pay now.
I pay the $8 a month to Pixlr now. Although I think I just realized something. So it starts your month with 1,000 credits.
Yes.
And I thought it was additive. So I thought my 900 or so credits that I still had, I thought I'd have 1,900 credits. But it's no.
Oh, that's interesting.
A little surprised about that detail. So now I think, guess I'll use it like crazy now.
How many do you need? I think
they took them away. It was like a breakage feeling because they told me there's a finite amount. Now I'm like, well, I would like all my finite, please.
How often do they reset them?
Once a month. So as you pay.
Oh, got it.
Here's 1,000 credits.
Oh, okay, but they don't roll over. I gotcha.
They don't roll over.
So we should on the Backpack Show take prompts and start generating images for people. Because why not? You have so many. It's all burn some.
I could just do it for a long time, I guess.
It's interesting what AI art gets right.
Well, look who showed up for a second.
Oh, it's done cleaning.
She must have just heard her name 75 times from the other room and like, okay, fine, I'll touch the device.
She's really lovely. She's kind.
She's kind.
She's kind.
But not nice.
She's both. Some people are both.
No, but I just say that quote about the stupid thing. Man, there's, how many people actually work on a Sunday? The other reason I started this stream up today was like some coworkers were like suddenly sending me some stuff. Now, we're on the executive team, so I kind of understand it. Sometimes executives have to work different hours and stuff like that, but literally what we were covering wasn't super important. I think it was just I don't think it was an issue, it was just a passing thought. But now this other guy that I work with just sent me an invite, and I'm sort of like, it's Sunday, monkeys. Like, let's go be human. But I say that, I'm just the worst example of this.
Yeah, you are. Okay. I was like, it vibrated. Must be important. And it'll be like the stand reminder from your fitness app or something. I schedule things because I don't want people that work for me to think that I expect them to look at my stuff over the weekend. So I'll schedule it for like Monday morning or something. I have said, if I send you a thing, it doesn't mean I need an immediate response or anything. It's when I'm thinking about it, but they would reply anyway. And so I have learned to just schedule it to go out at like during work hours. Because otherwise they know I'm doing it. They know I'm working the weekend. And no matter what I say, they feel pressured to do it.
I feel the same. I think that if you send a message on the weekend, it's going to prompt people to think about replying on the weekend. I just don't really want that. I don't want that to be any of the people that work with me. I've taken to, we use Slack at work, I've taken to loading the crap out of Slack for Mondays and just sort of letting it span across the first couple hours of the workday. But I never send it on the weekend unless to the executives.
I do sometimes forget what it is that I sent. And when I get the reply, I'm like, what? And then I have to think about it and get myself kind of back into that headspace.
All right,
but I also think,
yes.
But not answering would be a good way of setting your boundaries without having to be, too pointed about it. If it's not an important thing, maybe don't answer it until Monday. Let it ride. I've found that a lot of those things resolve themselves too. If you don't jump right in, it doesn't matter anymore by Monday. That's my 2 cents.
I like your 2 cents. I can accept that.
Thank you. Well, I'm gonna go do an escape room. How about that?
Well, listen, get out of this room and go escape another room.
You can have your stream back.
Yeah, give me my. Listen. Ready? I'm just kidding.
You can't get rid of me.
Oh, you're the bestest. All right. Thank you, everybody. I'm going to keep going for a bit because I have more writing to do. Carrie was saying, how do you like stream and journal at the same time? Answer, you don't. So I was just writing, in my journal, but I've only gotten about like a couple of inches down the page here. I was talking a little bit about using a journal to figure out decisions. I think that's a good use of a journal. And the same idea with journaling, this goes a little bit with my philosophy on things. One of the things I do with journaling is I also try to figure out the direction of things that I'm doing. Like I try to figure out where do I want to put my energy and how do I want to give my time to things? How do I want to align sort of my focus? That's a unique way to look at journaling because a lot of times life just kind of pushes us in a certain direction and we don't think much about it. But in this method of journaling, what I'm doing is if you sort of warm yourself up for something you might be thinking about, then you might have a better chance of seeing it when you see it, right? Like if I said to you, look for piles of books in my background, well, then maybe you'd go, oh, I see one right there, But if I didn't say look for piles of books in my background, you might look around at other stuff, like my big light and all that sort of stuff, right? So how we aim our intentions, how we aim ourselves changes what we see. And for instance, my oldest kid, who's 21, is feeling a little upset about the world right now. And I mean, can't we all agree that that makes sense? Like, there's a lot of stuff going on that would lead one to feel upset. So my oldest kid's feeling pretty upset about the world. And I said, I got to confess something to you. I have so much stuff going on in my life. I have so many things that I am thinking about that regard the people closest to me, but I can't worry about the large world right now. I can't. I have very few boundaries on my world. I have my mom's health, my dad's health. I have my children, so my very immediate family. Very few humans beyond that, in depth. And then, of course, things like trans health, LGBTQ rights, that sort of thing. That's about it. That's about the size of the bucket. And my own work stuff, and that's the size of my world. So if you're like, they're pushing marmots out of the woods and into meat chippers, I'm going to be like, wow, that sucks for the marmots. I don't have mental capacity for it. I can't possibly think or feel or suffer through that right now. I have intentions for the United States election. I'm going to vote for the kinds of people I think are going to do the best with the right for the people that I love the most. I will surely vote in my state and local things. Global stuff, if I let it in, I'm going to get crushed by it. I'm going to let other people fight that fight for me right now. I'm going to tackle the things I can tackle right here. And I think if everyone thinks that way, then you're right. The world gets crappier faster, but you have to put your own mask on first. I deal with clinical depression, so I have a very small aperture for bad things I can let into my life. And so I try my hardest to not do that. So one of the things I'm hoping with these streams that we do together, maybe one of the kind of cool things we can do is just have that sense that maybe we can just kind of chill for a minute and get to a place where we're thinking about a little less for a minute, and then go out and tackle the world. What do you think about that? I'm going to go just a handful more minutes. I'm going to fill in some more in my journal. This music that's playing is on Epidemic Sound. You hear it okay? I don't even know, so leave a comment if you're watching live. We'll push this song on. But yeah, I'm going to write a little bit more in my journal. So one of the things I wanted to write about today, I told you decisions is one thing to think about. The other is, like I said, where do you want to focus for the week? So I'm just going to write down focus areas for the week and write on that. One thing I'm going to do is I upped my game on a particular meeting that I run internally. So I'm going to make sure that I remind myself that I need to put out a Monday agenda. I am going to talk a little bit about reviewing some of my bigger projects, which I keep in a Trello board. I'm going to make sure that I focus on big wins versus little issues. Because sometimes you get into the weeds with stuff, right? Sometimes you get into smaller things that are a little, bothersome or whatever. But I think what I'm going to need to do is I'm going to need to focus on some of the bigger wins. I'm going to work on where are some of the places that I can do even more good than not. So as I walk through this, the focus areas for the week, I realized, oh man, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to pull some of this onto a Post-it note and keep it in my work area so that I can keep looking at it throughout the week. I find that the minute I make if you put this on a tab on your browser, you're going to lose it somewhere. I have Well, it looks like 12 tabs open right now, which I know is rookie numbers for some of you, but for me, that's way too many tabs. I'm going to have to pull a bunch of these down. I also, as I'm looking through some of these tabs, I'm realizing these are the I'll get to it laters of our lives. Don't do that. Don't. Because either you're going to, set the time apart and do the part. Oh, thanks, Chloe. Either you're going to set the time aside and do the thing, or you're just adding to like a low level grief that you put yourself through. So maybe I won't do that. So I have focus areas. I'm going to put it on a Post-it note. I'm going to run from there. Any way you want, either leave a comment or drop me a message, or if however you know how to reach me. Email chris@chrisbrogan.com. Let me know if you like these streams. I'm enjoying them. I might just keep doing them just for myself, but I mean, wow. A lot of people show up for them, which is kind of weird to me, but bless your souls. All right, that's it. Let's get the heck out of here. Back to work, everybody.